Welcome back to that build. Today I'm continuing progress, obviously, of my Porsche Turbo Replica chassis, Beetle chassis. What we're doing today is spraying the inside tunnel with the rust converter. So I've got a few extra little bits and pieces to work with my pressure gun. So nice long extendable hose, that'll be really handy for going through the supporting rod, beam, things, whatever these pieces are at the back. And then of course the slightly thicker extension cord, just for getting in this area here, just gives you a bit more thicker spray and everything. I've adorned the floor with cardboard and of course given it a bit more of a once over with some compressed air. Done a bit of scrubbing too here and there. There was actually a bit of gumped up, I can still see some more there, but anyway, that's staying. What remains, and of course it'll just be coated over anyway. So once I've done the fish oil, that'll pretty much seal everything in regardless. It's reasonably well covered and, you know, clean, but there's always going to be a tiny bit, unless I pressure washed it and all that sort of thing. It's a bit too much of a nightmare and a bit too difficult to do that one. So I've just left it. We're just going to run with the rust converter and then of course do the fish oil. Apologies for the possible audio issue. It is a nightmare outside. We've had a massive storm overnight. The winds continued. It's just pushed over a couple of trees outside. I'm sure I'll have to deal with those ones later. So yeah, if the roof falls in on me like it sounds like it's going to, So it's 48 hours later. I did say 24, however, I decided to do a bit more of a spray as I did miss some stupidly very obvious areas. So recoated, and of course with that required more curing time. Now there is quite a few puddles because I was rather thick with laying this on, as we can see from the floor. But anyway, I've got plenty of it, and it really doesn't make a difference because it just drains down and then eventually just becomes like a hard, tacky substance as such. Most of this now is pretty well solid, so I'm more or less going to leave this because A, it really does need more curing time, but B, beyond that, I don't need to do anything else presently in here apart from what I'm going to do next. See my vest, see my best, made from real Gorilla. So I'm moving now onto the fuel line routing, and I've gone with complete new run. That's extremely loud. Gone with a complete new run of copper lead because realistically, the stuff that was in there, as mentioned way back when, has been sitting in there with stale fuel, and of course there were quite a bit of rusty deposits I could see along the entry point. So of course, brand new hose. This stuff is actually a little bit thicker, so it's a 1/4 inch size compared to the much smaller size, I can't remember exactly what it is, that would be normally in the Volkswagen chassis. Not really going to make a great deal of difference. The only problem at this point, and it won't be an issue in the future, is when it connects to the carburetor. Of course, that is a much smaller barb, but again, not really that much of a problem. We'll sort that out along the way. So this more or less simply involves uncoiling as much as I require. Excuse me. Uncoiling, one second. It's nearly cold, my throat is, oh yeah, so much better. Uncoiling this, feeding it through, and then of course exiting the other end and then pinching it along the way in the existing tabs. So I've got one at the front here, one at the midpoint. I believe there's supposed to be a third, really loud truck, but third tab in the rear here. I can't see that, and the problem is I can't, I suppose I could reach in there. I'm going to be covered in stickiness, but anyway, I'll do that, and then we'll start to feed this, and then I'll talk about the next thing we're going to do. Now there are tools for this, and that's not too bad. I was kind of thinking I might kind of want those tools, but it just requires really delicately straightening out the run until you get the desired effect. And of course, I do have a bit of an angle which needs to happen here to go through the side. Pretty sure it goes through the side. There's also a small hole at the top, which I don't know what that was for. I'm pretty sure it was on the side. And then at the exit point at the rear, funnily enough, when I started putting through the, oh man, this, yeah, okay. This stuff is quite firm, but it's good. When I started putting through the hose at the end, it actually did push out a bit more rust. I've used so much compressed air, electric blowers, everything like that, just to try and get all the crud removed, and there was still debris in there. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of a cap on the end here, just so it doesn't actually allow any dirt to progress through when I'm feeding it, especially towards the end. Finessing it out there to get it through the fork arm where the exit hole is. That's going to be a bit of fun, I think, but as long as I've got a decently straight run, this tip section is hard. Yeah, we should be okay. So I'll sort this out, then we'll get back to you. Right, that's finally installed. Thank heck for that, because that was not enjoyable. When you can't go in the front door, just slip it in the back. Anyway, now I unfortunately ordered some parts which have not arrived yet, so I can't finish the tunnel, which I'm a little annoyed about, because it would have been great to have this all done this week, but the small parts that are left, I'm just going to do them off camera and we can just move on after this, because I do want to keep progressing. So the inside now is looking pretty good. This is actually another 24 hours again since this is the next day, and it's possibly still a bit sticky in some spots, but anyway, that's fine. What's left now is more or less the shifter rod linkage sticky, this thing. Still a bit of surface rust on it. I should have actually brought some, yeah, that would have been a better idea, but I don't. So what I'm going to do to clean this up is more or less my trusty barbecue scrubber. It'll work, just a bit more tedious. I could have just gone up and down. This is turning really weird. That's good coffee. Anyway, that's a bit more progress. I'm happy the fuel line's done now. That's another job out the way that I really wasn't looking forward to, and well warranted, that section at the rear. Anyway, so that's now complete. The tunnel is nearly done. We are nearly at a point of having it sealed back up, which is really great. So once the parts come in, I've got a clutch cable, a new clutch cable coming, along with the bushing, which was completely missing out of the equation from there. I'll put that back together, reseat that. I was hoping to actually have the park brake cables because I do have easy access, but unfortunately they were on back order. They're completely out of stock. I did mention also that I was looking into running the brake line through the center section, and I really did want to do that, but it is a bit more of a headache. And on top of that as well, I've actually found a complete brake line kit, which is all the hard lines exactly as they were, just span them out, same as with this, and then hook it into the existing. So I'm going to do that, and I'll simply find a way of masking over the internal channel line and under the pedals, just so it looks a bit nicer. I don't mind the raw look, but it's a bit ugly, that hose. I really would have liked that internally, but it's a bit beyond. I really don't need to go that far, so I'm going to leave that. So that's just going to be replaced with the same sort of parts, new brake lines, and then that's it. Now, with regards to the bolts at the bottom here, I am going to hack them off, so that'll be a nice flush setup. Also, once again, thank you, Ian, for offering about the other piece, the earlier model Volkswagen Beetle. It didn't have that there. It was a little more slimline, tiny bit more, but for the most part, it's just a factor of covering it over, because I'm still going to see a gap, so I've just got to cover up those two side pieces anyway. It's just the way it's going to be. So poor result, but at the same time, I'm just going to put a boot over it. It just makes it easier. So that's more or less sorted. Hopefully, depends on when these parts turn up, but hopefully, I think I'm going to flip this thing over. So I'm not sure yet if I'm ready to reseal it up. I've still got to do the fish oil, which is another job in itself. Again, just more spraying. I might also try and do a bit more cleaning on the inside. I can't really film it, it's a bit tricky. But when I actually had the torch up in there trying to see the route for the fuel line, I did notice a bit more crud right in the very corners, which did not get out initially. So I'm going to try and do a bit more removal off camera. Won't worry about that. And then that is the tunnel done. So the chassis is more or less back together, or will be back together very soon, which, yes, finally starting to make progress. So that's going to do it again today, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. This is looking too appetizing. Oh yeah. Anyway. Yes, thank you for joining me. As always, like, subscribe, comment below, etc. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbour that if he ever needs to wash the inside walls of a large tunnel, get a nice big hose, thread it. No, we're doing it again. Anyway, guys, until next time, cheers.